The first prediction for today's NBA games is for the game between the Charlotte Hornets and Atlanta Hawks. When I sit down to break down this matchup, the first thing that hits me is how easy it would be to roll with Atlanta and not even think twice. They're the deeper team, they've got the more reliable structure, and lately they've been executing in a way Charlotte hasn't matched. But the NBA never rewards lazy assumptions, and this is one of those spots where I trust the matchup and the situational angles more than the surface numbers. Atlanta has played some solid ball through the first chunk of the season, even navigating stretches without Trae Young. They've leaned into a slower, more controlled offensive rhythm, with Jalen Johnson taking a major leap and Nickeil Alexander-Walker giving them a steady perimeter punch. When Kristaps Porzingis is locked in, they become even tougher to guard. And defensively, they've sharpened up since shifting away from their run-and-gun identity, especially after shutting down New Orleans the night before. But as much as I like Atlanta's long-term trajectory, I've watched this team long enough to know they get uncomfortable in games they're supposed to dominate. When they're listed as home favorites, they tend to let teams hang around, especially when there's a rest disadvantage, lineup uncertainty, and a big spread hanging over the matchup. I've seen this movie enough times. The Hawks win the game, but not convincingly enough to cash for the people backing the favorites. Now Charlotte. Look, I'm not pretending they're in good shape. They've been inconsistent, especially on the defensive end, and the injuries have killed any chance of stability. But even with their issues, they still show flashes of competitive fire. Con Newpel has been one of the few bright spots. Miles Bridges is producing, and on certain nights, Charlotte plays with a looseness that actually helps them punch above their weight. They've been losing games, but not every defeat has been a blowout, and that matters when you're staring at a wide spread. Both teams are also dealing with the second night of a back-to-back, and in those spots, the pace usually flattens out. Legs get heavy, rotations shorten, and teams fall back into simpler half-court sets instead of trying to outrun each other. That's where I see this matchup tightening. Charlotte isn't going to outrun anybody, but they can keep the scoreboard from exploding when the game turns into a grind. And Atlanta, without Trae, has naturally slowed down its tempo and spacing. For me, the biggest angle is simple. The Hornets' flaws don't erase their ability to stay inside a big number. They've caught Atlanta off guard in similar spots before. They're not good enough to trust outright, but I don't need them to win. I just need them to compete, keep the margin respectable, and take advantage of the fact that Atlanta often relaxes when heavily favored. And with both teams playing back-to-back, I'm not expecting a track meet. The style, the rhythm, the matchups, everything points toward a lower scoring game than what the books are projecting. My final take. I'm riding with the Hornets to cover the 9-point spread. I think the Hawks take the win, but I see Charlotte hanging around long enough to cash the ticket. And for the total, I'm on the side of the under. I don't see this matchup climbing anywhere near the 234-point mark. That's where my money is tonight. Today's second prediction is for the game between the Orlando Magic and Boston Celtics. When I look at this matchup, I keep coming back to one thing. This spot screams Boston to me. I know the Celtics have been choppy lately, and I know the Magic have been rolling, but when I break down the rhythm, the legs, the matchups, and the timing, everything points toward the home team tightening the screws tonight. Let me start with Boston. Without Tatum, this team has been trying to reinvent its identity, and it hasn't been clean. They've been alternating good nights and bad nights like a heartbeat monitor, and that inconsistency can drive bettors crazy. But what I've noticed is that Jaylen Brown has embraced the heavy lifting. He's playing like a guy who knows the franchise rests on his shoulders right now. He's putting pressure on defenses, getting downhill, posting up smaller wings, and forcing help rotations. When he gets going early, Boston's whole offense breathes differently. What I like tonight is that the Celtics are quietly sharpening their perimeter shooting. The ball is coming out quicker, the spacing is improving, and guys like Pritchard and White are starting to find rhythm even though they aren't getting as many clean looks as last season. And when Boston is hitting from deep, that's one area where Orlando simply doesn't have the counterpunch. The Magic are near the bottom of the league in long-range production, and even with Wagner carrying the scoring load, they just don't stretch the floor the same way. Now, Orlando has been one of the hottest teams in the East lately. I can't ignore that. They've won 6 of their last 7, and they've been flying around defensively, forcing mistakes, and using their length to clog drives. Wagner has been sensational, Desmond Bane has been a great fit, Suggs has been punching above expectations. I see all that. But here's where the spot absolutely kills them. Short rest, travel, and missing key bodies. This is the back end of a tough back-to-back, coming off a high-energy win last night. They played late, had to travel, and they walked into TD Garden without Paolo Banchero, without Moritz Wagner, and with Suggs not even guaranteed to be fully healthy. That's a lot of weight missing from a team that already struggles to create efficient half-court looks. And when those legs start to go in the second half, and trust me, they will, that's when Boston's slow pace and physicality start to grind on opponents. These teams have already played twice this season, and they split the series, but in both games, the team with fresher legs controlled the tempo. And Boston is sitting at home with rest, stewing over an embarrassing loss to Brooklyn. When a proud defensive team takes a punch like that, they usually come out with a statement. I expect Boston to throw bodies at Franz Wagner all night, switch everything on the perimeter, and force Orlando into long, late clock possessions. And if this turns into a shooting contest, I'll take Boston's firepower 8 days a week. So for me, the angle is simple. Home court, rest advantage, more shot making, and better closing potential. I think the Celtics finally string together a complete game. And yes, the Magic have been cashing tickets, but this is just the wrong spot for them. My prediction is that the Celtics cover the 4-point spread. I'm riding with Boston to handle their business at home tonight. The third prediction for today is for the game between the San Antonio Spurs and Phoenix Suns. When I look at this matchup, I feel like I'm watching two teams sprinting toward the same intersection from completely different angles. And tonight we get to see who reaches it first. The Spurs roll into Phoenix without their generational shot eraser. But even without their skyscraper in the middle, they've been playing with a freedom and rhythm that you usually see from young squads with nothing to lose. They've been pushing the pace, letting Fox call the tune, and trusting their wings to carry the scoring load. And honestly, I've got to give them credit. That ball movement has been clean, the spacing sharp, and the confidence overflowing. You can't fake that. But when I break down the matchup possession by possession, the picture changes. Phoenix has been punching back with grown man basketball these last couple of weeks. They're not the flashy, perimeter-obsessed group they used to be. They're tougher. They defend. They grind. You can see it in how they rotate, how they contest, and how they finish defensive possessions on the glass. Dillon Brooks brought that edge the moment he stepped into the locker room. And love him or hate him, that energy rubs off. Booker is still steering the offense. Williams is hitting everything around the rim, and the Suns are getting impact minutes from guys who weren't even on the scouting reports last season. What I really notice when I watch Phoenix is that their late-game composure has changed. In years past, if they blew a lead, that was curtains. Now, when the momentum swings, they don't panic. They grind through it, clean up the details, and keep firing. That comeback against Minnesota wasn't a fluke. It was a team that trusts its fundamentals. That's the kind of trait I take seriously when I'm handicapping a game like this. The Spurs, for all their firepower right now, still have holes, especially without Wembanyama anchoring the back line. When teams attack them downhill, you see just how much real estate he usually erases. That missing presence forces San Antonio into rotations that don't always arrive on time. And Phoenix is exactly the kind of team that punishes late closeouts. And with the Suns crashing the offensive glass as hard as they are, that's an extra layer of pressure on a short-handed Spurs frontcourt. Now, I'm not knocking San Antonio. I love the heart they're showing, I love the tempo, and I love how Fox has taken this roster and turned it into a track meet offense. But when I'm projecting tonight, I'm projecting matchups. And Phoenix's style right now is built to exploit exactly the areas where San Antonio bends. I know a lot of people will look at the Spurs' recent wins and think they're catching fire. And maybe they are. But the schedule has been very kind. Most of that run came at home. And now they're stepping into a gym where Phoenix has been locked in and protecting their floor with intent. This is not the same Suns team from last season. Not even close. And this is where my own play comes in. After running the numbers, watching the film, and feeling out the rhythm of both squads, I'm rolling with my read. My prediction is simple. I'm playing the Spurs to cover the 4-point spread. I think Phoenix probably squeezes out the win, but I believe San Antonio keeps this one tight. The way they're pushing the ball, the way Fox has grabbed control of games, and the way their wings are attacking early in the shot clock, that's the kind of tempo that forces opponents out of their comfort zone. And if the Suns get dragged into a track meet, this number becomes very reachable. So for me, this is a spot where the Suns' toughness meets the Spurs' pace, and I'm backing the pace to keep it close enough to cash. Today's last prediction is for the game between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Utah Jazz. When I look at this matchup between the Lakers and the Jazz, the first thing that jumps out at me is tempo and shot making. The Lakers just hung 140 on this same Utah team a few nights ago, and it wasn't a fluke. With Luka Doncic running the show, Austin Reeves playing like a legit go-to-scorer, and DeAndre Ayton eating in the paint, this offense is built to score in bunches. They're efficient, they shoot a high percentage from the field, and with LeBron back, the ball is popping even more. You can feel that this group believes they belong at the top of the Western Conference, not crawling in through the play-in. On the other side, the Jazz are a mess defensively right now, and I'm not sugarcoating it. In the last stretch, they've been torched for 147, 140, and 144 points. That tells me the rotations are slow, communication is off, and they simply can't keep the ball in front of them. But here's the thing. This team can still fill it up on the other end. Lauri Markkanen is putting up big numbers as the primary option. Keontae George has taken a clear step forward as a scorer and creator, and they've got enough young legs to run all night in front of their home crowd. So what kind of game do I expect? For me, this screams shootout. The Lakers are comfortable pushing the pace. The Jazz basically have to lean into offense because their defense can't get stops, and all the recent trends line up with high scoring. Lakers games have been cashing overs. Jazz home games have been cashing overs. And when these two hook up in Salt Lake City, the scoreboard usually lights up again. I fully expect long rebounds, early offense, and a lot of possessions ending in quick threes or straight line drives to the rim. Now, about the spread. The number sitting around 11 points is big, especially on the road. I respect how well the Lakers have been playing, and I do think they are clearly the better team. Luka is on a different planet right now. LeBron is picking his spots and controlling tempo, and the supporting cast knows their roles. But as a bettor, I have to separate who wins from who covers. Double-digit road chalk in a high-paced game is always a little dangerous because one bad stretch or one late run from the underdog can flip the ticket. Utah has quietly been scrapping at home against the number. Even when they lose, they often find a way to hang around long enough to make you sweat if you're laying a big price. With Markkanen capable of exploding for 40 on any given night and George fearless with the ball, I can easily see stretches where the Jazz punch back, ride the energy in the building, and turn this into more of a track meet than a slow, controlled blowout. So this is how I'm playing it. I respect the Lakers' firepower too much to step in front of them on the money line, but I'm also not eager to lay that many points in this kind of offensive environment. I'm expecting a game where both teams run, both teams score, and defense is more of a suggestion than a reality. In that kind of script, the door is always open for a late backdoor cover, or even a surprise if the favorite lets its foot off the gas. My final call for this game. I think the Lakers get the win, but I'm taking the Jazz plus the points at home to cover the 11, and I'm also riding the total to go over 243.5. In a game like this, I'm betting on pace, shot making, and a competitive Jazz team that keeps it interesting all the way to the buzzer.